Hi folks, I'm Chuck Black. We're doing 52 weeks of Python in 10-minute or less sessions. The topic for this session is going to be the most basic stuff about programming. So we're going to start you off with programming examples. Now I'm in PyCharm. If I want to just play around with various stuff in Python, what I can do is come up here and open a Scratch file. So this is actually going to create a new Scratch file. Of course, I want it to be Python, so I have scratch.py. Your Python files will end in .py. Now I can start typing code. So I'm going to begin to type stuff in. The thing on the left is going to be my variable name. This equal sign is actually an assignment operator. Things that I put in quotes like this are going to be strings, and you can see that there's something that is giving me squawking about no new line at the end of the file. That's very annoying to me, but I will make a new line at the end of my file so that goes away. So let's review this. The thing on the left is going to be a variable. This equal sign is going to perform the function of an assignment operator. We use equals in different contexts in Python, so you need to know what's going on. This is an assignment statement, and so this equal sign here says I'm going to take the value on the right. The type of this value happens to be a string because it's in quotes, and I'm going to assign it, or rather I'm going to have this name variable point at that string object. So that is what this is doing. Now with strings, we can use double quotes or single quotes, but we have to be consistent. If I was to change that to a single quote, Python would not like that. As you can see, it's going to squawk about that. So I need to be consistent whether I use single or double quotes. Now I can assign things any way that I want to. There's something called static typing of your variables versus dynamic typing of variables. This is kind of a more intermediate advanced thing. In other languages, you need to declare that, hey, name is going to be a string. In Python, I don't have to do that. I just assign that. What that means is I could get rid of this and I could say name equals 5. That doesn't make any sense, but I could do it. You can see that that's okay. If you were to say name equals Chuck, you're going to say, well, that's what you just did. Why is there an error here? Well, you will do this until the day you die if you write software. I certainly am. I forgot to put quotes around my string, and so I need to do my quotes like this, and Python is going to be very good. It's going to evaluate it and tell me, that looks better now. So as I mentioned before, I can use integers. So I'm going to say age, if I can spell it correctly, age equals 63. And now you're saying to yourself, Chuck, your age cannot be 63. You sound and talk just like a young person, just like me. Well, sadly, I am 63, and stop making fun of my age, you young whippersnapper, and get off of my lawn too. Anyway, that's just some stupid humor, I guess. One thing that I could do here also is I could create a different type, which would be funny, and I'm going to say that's not a type, that's my variable name. Funny equals false. That's what you guys would say. This is a boolean. If it was me, I would probably be saying funny equals true, but I suspect if you were to ask anybody other than me, then you would probably end up with something that would be false. That is a boolean value. But what I'm going to use instead is I'm going to do something. I'm going to say marital status equals true, and I thought that was going to be okay, but why is it giving me an error here? Unresolved reference marital, and we don't know why that is. Well, the reason is variable names have a specific set of rules, and one of the rules is you can't have a blank there. If you were to think about it, you could say, well, yeah, I can see how a blank in a variable name would cause problems. So one thing I could do is this and just get rid of the blank. Then that would be okay. It looks pretty long. If I was to have variable names that always ran on together, that would be unfortunate. One thing is I can do is what we do in other programming languages. We use what's called camel case, where you capitalize the beginning of each word. So here marital status equals true. And Python says that's perfectly okay. But I need to tell you, Python does not favor camel case. It prefers what we call snake case, which is using this underscore. So what you'll see in Python is variable names and other stuff, including names of files. Do I have any files here? Yeah, these files have underscores in them. That is what we end up using. Most importantly, though, for variable names. And there's exceptions, like with everything, but that is what you need to learn about your variable names. Remember, variable on the left, this is an assignment operator, and this is the value. Coding is a lot about values and data, and so this is what we're beginning to learn, and we've learned about the data type string, the data type integer, and the data type boolean. Now, I think you'll agree with me that this is an amazingly boring program. So what we're going to do is we're going to print some of this stuff out. How do I print? In Python, I can just say print name, and then what did I have? Age and marital status. You can see Python PyCharm will auto-complete that for me, so that's good. What happened if I did this? Well, now, how can I run this? I could leave here and run it, but something that I can do, which is nice about PyCharm, is I can just say run scratch, and it's going to run it for me. And hey, guess what? It printed that stuff out. That's cool, but that's not really that helpful. Let's see if I can make this a little bit better. There, I've attempted to write this so that it will tell me what the things are. I'm going to run it again. Now that I've run it once, you can see it saying scratch. I can run scratch by just clicking up here. I can also click down here to run it again. And when I do, you notice that the output comes out a little bit better. Let's see if we can make this a little bit nicer. Okay, if I've done that correctly, then it should look even a little bit nicer. Sure enough, that does look nicer. Let's say that I want it not to print right at the very beginning. What can I do? If I add that print statement and I run it, then it should print out and it's nicely formatted, and I kind of like how that looks. Okay, one last thing before we're done, and this is important. I'm going to add a conditional statement in here. A conditional statement we usually call an if statement, and in this situation I'm going to say if name equals Chuck. Now here I'm saying equals with two equal signs. I do that for a comparison type of operation. So I say if name is equal to Chuck. Now what I need to do, the code that's going to get executed, is going to be the code that is in the code block that follows it. The way that we identify code blocks in Python is by indentation. This is very, very important. You can indent any number of characters, but it has to be consistent. You can see I've indented differently, and therefore that's bad. If I go back like this, it's going to be okay. Let's run this and see what happens. I'm saying if my name equals Chuck, then it will print it out. And sure enough, it printed it out. What if I want it not to be Chuck? That's probably the story of my dating life. If this is not Chuck, then I'm interested in the person. Then will it up? And you can see it didn't print it out because my name was Chuck. What if we wanted to do something different? And if we were to say if age, let's go back, age is less than 60, then we'll print it out. Let's see what happens there. If age is less than, nope. So what if Chuck lies about his age and he says, I'm only 59? What's going to happen in this situation? Guess what? It printed it out. Sure enough, it printed my age, even though that's a line. So conditional statement, very simple one. We'll be going over that in great detail later. And code blocks are indented. There's no curly braces or anything, but you need to honor the indentation that you start with. Well, that's it for this lesson. Here's our little bit of code, and over here is what you can be creating if you stick with us throughout this class. Thanks for listening.